Good day everyone. I'm Ivan, the moderator for this webinar. I welcome everyone for today's webinar, which is Advanced QuickBooks Online Analysis 2024. I would now like to introduce our presenter for today, David H. Ringstrom. David H. Ringstrom, CPA, is an author and nationally recognized instructor who teaches scores of webinars each year. His Excel courses are based on over 25 years of consulting and teaching experience. David's mantra is either you work Excel or it works you. I would now like to hand over the floor to the speaker.
Thank you,
Over to
Ivan.
you, David.
Thank you, Ivan. Hello, everyone. I'm David Ringstrom, a CPA in Atlanta, and welcome to our presentation on Advanced Online QuickBooks Online Analysis. Over the course of our time together today, my goal is to share with you techniques that you can use to unlock your QuickBooks data. I'm here to help you unlock your data and show you various ways that once it is unlocked, you can analyze it more effectively in Excel. I will be teaching from the Microsoft 365 version of Excel today. That is because that is the newest version of Excel. It will always be the newest because it is a subscription-based platform. So let's begin. I want to show you first how to access. There are two different QuickBooks Online sample companies. Go to qbo.intuit.com/redirect/test drive. And as we always must, we have to prove we're not a robot. So click the checkbox, we'll click continue. That's all that's needed to access the sample company is just to click a checkbox and then click OK. So now at this point, we're inside a sample company that does have a few transactions, not a whole lot, but it is just designed to give you, to let you do kind of a vibe check with regard to QuickBooks Online. So what we're going to do next is we're going to export a customer contact list. And the slide across the top does show how to do that in QuickBooks Desktop. I'm not going to go into QuickBooks Desktop. We're going to stick with QuickBooks Online. But rather than clicking Enable Editing over and over again, instead, if you go to the File menu, step 2, go to Options. So this is going to be a one-time change that you make. That opens the Excel Options dialog box. Step 4 there, we want to go to the Trust Center. And over to the right, step 5, we're clicking Trust Center Settings. So that brings up the Trust Center dialog box. Step 6, we're clicking Protected View. And then steps 7 and 8, these are the settings that you can optionally change to eliminate that Protected View prompt. So for step 7, if you clear that checkbox for Enable Protected View for files originating from the internet, that means that whenever you download a report from QuickBooks Online, it will no longer ping you to undo Protected View. Step 8 will do the same thing for Outlook attachments if you wish. You would then click OK twice, and then going forward, you would not see that Protected View setting over and over again. So the next feature that I want to talk about are ways to separate data into separate columns. So we're going to select the data we want to separate. Step 2, we'll go to the Data menu. Step 3, we're clicking Text to Columns. Step 4 there, we'll choose Delimited. Step 5, we'll click Next. Step 6, we're going to click the comma choice. Step 7, we'll click Finish. And that is going to separate out the city separate from the state and zip code. Because many times in QuickBooks, data gets jammed together all in one field. So what that will look like is, again, we'll go to Data, we'll go to Text to Columns. That brings up the Fixed Width option, or brings up the Text Columns wizard from which we'll choose Fixed Width and then click Next. Step 13, we're going to click Next because Excel is going to guess at where the column break is, and so we're not going to need to make a change there. So we'll click Next, click on that zip code column because remember, if we're not careful, Excel will throw away our leading zeros. So we can then mark that as text, and when we click Finish, that will separate the data out, but preserve the leading zeros in our zip codes. So let's look at some ways that we can transform QuickBooks reports. And in particular, we're going to use a feature that is called Power Query. So in QuickBooks, we're going to go to Reports, we're going to click Export to, we're going to click Step 2, we're going to type Customer Contact. Step 3, we'll choose that Customer Contact list. Step 4, we're clicking the Download button. Step 5, we're choosing Export to Excel. Step 6 there, we want to click on any cell within the report and then press Control A. That will select the entire report. Step 7, we're going to go to the data menu. And step 8, we're going to choose from table/range and then click OK. So one of the first things that Power Query makes it easy to do is to pick and choose the columns that you want to see. So another thing that we can do within Power Query that you can also do it in Excel, on the Home tab in Power Query, there's a Remove Rows command that lets us remove duplicates. So the next feature that I want to look at is creating maps of where your customers are. So to do that, what we would do is copy our addresses to a blank column. We can then select column A. We can choose Remove Duplicates from the data menu. We can click OK as needed. And then on the Insert menu, there's a Bing Maps option. You actually want to click on the Show Locations button, which is step 7 there. It's at the top of the dialog box. So other ways that we can analyze our data is we're going to now go over to QuickBooks Online and we're going to create a transaction detail report. So to do that, we're going to go to Reports. Step 2, we're going to search for transaction detail. Step 3, transaction detail by account. Step 4, we're going to get rid of the groups. So we'll click Clear All Groups. We'll click the button to remove the groups. Tell it we want it for this fiscal year. We'll export it to Excel. And then we're going to look at some ways that we can summarize that report. We're going to use the table feature and slicers to kind of sift through this data. Historically, QuickBooks would take dates and store them as text. It's not doing that anymore. It would also add $signs in front of the amounts. That would make it be stored as text. But once we have our report exported from QuickBooks, if we select any cell within that report, we go to the Insert menu, we click the Table command, and then we click OK. So if I select any cell within a table, so I can't do this on a normal range of cells, but if I do this on a table, on the Table Design menu, if I click Insert Slicer, I can pick one or more fields that I want to filter on. That's going to add a slicer. So if I select any cell within my table or normal range of cells, if I go to the Insert menu, if I choose PivotTable, I can click OK. It's going to give me a blank PivotTable list. I can then pick and choose the fields that I want to create a summary report. There is some interactivity. I can click on the Analyze tab and choose Collapse Field. That would collapse the entire PivotTable down. And then also use the buttons to expand or collapse those sections there. Another way that we can work with our pivot tables is we can create what's known as a top 10 filter. I can click the row labels button or the filter button within the row labels section there. Click on value filters, which is step 2. Step 3, I can choose top 10. That brings up a top 10 dialog box where I'll click OK. That's then going to show the top 10 transactions based upon, in this case, total sales or whatever field I've chosen. So I've already demonstrated the slicer feature, but I'll just show you again. If we right-click any cell within a pivot table, if we go to the Analyze tab, we click on Insert Slicer, that brings up an Insert Slicers dialog box. You can pick the field or fields that we wish to slice on and then click OK. So there is a clear button at the top of the slicer that you can use to clear the slicer to reset the filter there. You can hold the control key down if you want to pick 2 or more items. You can also right-click on the slicer and then choose Remove if you want to take the slicer off of the worksheet. So we saw the timeline feature. The timeline feature, if we go to the Insert menu, we go to Analyze tab, choose Insert Timeline, you can pick our date field and click OK. That lets us filter based upon our dates. Now, one important thing to keep in mind is that pivot tables function based upon a snapshot in time. And if you make any changes to the data, that the pivot table will not reflect it until you refresh the pivot table. In the past, QuickBooks Online would sometimes export certain reports in what's known as compatibility mode. Excel does offer a recommended pivot tables feature. So you can take your QuickBooks report and on the Insert menu, choose Recommended Pivot Tables. Select any cell within your list, go to Insert, Recommended Pivot Tables, double-click the one of your choice. That will then allow you to create an instant summary. You can then add more fields to it. The last feature that I do want to bring your attention is the Analyze Data feature that is specific to Microsoft 365. This is an AI-based tool where if you select anywhere on your data, if you go on the Home menu, choose Analyze Data, you can ask a plain English question about your data. So there's a lot of great things that you can do with the Analyze Data feature. That is an artificial intelligence-based feature that is available in Microsoft 365. Thank you, Ivan. I want to thank everyone for attending. We covered a lot of ground today. With that, I'll thank you for attending and look forward to seeing you back soon for another presentation. Here's Ivan to wrap things up.
All right, that concludes the session for today. Thank you everyone for participating, and you may all disconnect now. You have a great day ahead.